right, everybody, we are back. And like I told you on the other side, guys, I have got a great guest for you today. He's the host of Wrestling with Heart. It's my buddy Stanley Karr, and I got to praise this guy right out of the get-go. He's put up with he's been flexible with the moving schedule and how crazy everything's been lately. So I'm glad that we finally got a chance to sit down and make this conversation happen. So Stanley, dude, how are you? And thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Of course, man. Of course. And you had me on your show recently, and I can't plug it enough because I love the premise of your podcast, Wrestling with Heart. And we're going to come back and get into that here in a little bit. But I want to take it back to the beginning with you some and just kind of figure out, where your love of wrestling stemmed from and what gave you the idea to start your podcast. Because it's a very unique concept that I've never heard of before I started talking to you.
Yeah. So I had always been a fan of professional wrestling dating back to when I was 5. Like it was it was like a staple of my childhood, as it was like for so many people.
Yeah.
I started watching at the tail end of the Attitude Era. So about 2000. This was like when The Rock was like at his peak as like a baby face.
Yeah.
Austin was out with an injury. I think it was like his neck was broken or something. And so he was like the big star. Triple H was like the top heel, like the McMahon Helmsley regime.
Oh, yeah.
That was like the first exposure I ever got to pro wrestling. I kind of drifted out of it for a little bit, for a couple of years, and I kind of regret it because I missed out on some good stuff though, because I was a kid when I drifted out, so I was like, I missed like the first part of the Ruthless Aggression era, but I'm so thankful and I'm grateful that I caught most of it because there was a lot of good stuff. Like I'm talking like 2004 to about 2006, 2007, even to a little bit of 2008 before WWE went PG. Like you still had some quality stuff. I'm talking Angle and Guerrero, Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, Booker T and King Booker. I mean, they had some good stuff back then. And, I just feel like, looking back out on it now, it's like, man, this is some quality level stuff. I mean, people were kind of crapping on it at the time, but I'm like, I mean, now you got a lot of talented people on there, but like the writers and whoever was coming up with all the stuff back then, it was just like the juices were on fire.
They were. I mean, they really, and that's the thing too, is people say, it was a down period or it was a weird period because all the competition went away. TNA was a thing, but I mean, like the Ruthless Aggression era is right when I got into my peak fandom, like start of 2002. And there was so much good stuff there, man. Like you name my favorite match of all time, Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, but all this entertainment that wasn't, really looked at fondly at the time. Granted, there was some craziness in there. God wrestled a match, this, that, or the other. But I mean, like it was such an underappreciated time because a lot of the guys that we are still watching today, or some that are even, Hall of Fame bound, came from that time frame, the most stacked roster ever.
Hell, still to this day, there's people that are still wrestling that haven't even been in the Hall of Fame. Like guys like the Miz got his start in Ruthless Aggression era.
Shelton Benjamin,
underappreciated,
man, and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
dude, it's ridiculous.
Randy Orton,
and Cena, Batista, like you name it, the list goes on, and it's just. And there are some guys that are still going on the indies as well, but I mean, like the amount of people that are still working for the company now. In different roles in WWE came from that era. And it's just, it's so underappreciated because it fell right after the Attitude Era that everybody puts on this pedestal. But I think a lot of the in-ring competition and a lot of the toned down entertainment was so much better because it didn't push a lot of boundaries. Again, the God thing happened, whatever. But there was so much good stuff there that just doesn't get appreciated because it always gets compared to the Attitude Era.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about the Ruthless Aggression era was that you still had that like that edge from the Attitude Era that people love so much. Mix that in with some good technical wrestling, like the Angles, the Guerreros, the Benoits, the Mysterios. You have that, and you had like the eye candy stuff with the women. You had the serious, legitimate competition with the Trish Stratuses, the Litas, the Jacquelines, the Jazzes, and then you got the Tori Wilsons, the Stacey Keeblers, the Dawn Maries, the Candice Shells. Yeah, exactly. It was just a wonderful time.
The thing that doesn't get talked about enough for that though is the amount of guys that went away after the Attitude Era, because it seems like somewhere between 2000 and early 2002, a lot of these guys fell off, and then they started, like you started realizing like X-Pac's gone, the Godfather's gone, Road Dogg's gone, like all these guys are falling off, but then you have this new crop of talent that's coming in, and they're hungry, they want these spots, and then they're just sitting there like taking no prisoners. You've got the SmackDown 6, Brock Lesnar, like all this stuff is going on, and it gives a new generation of talent a chance to step up and, steal the spotlight. And I'd say they did.
Absolutely. I mean, even some of the guys from WCW that came over to the WWE, like Booker T, like Rob Van Dam, like Rey Mysterio, even Chavo Guerrero got over in the Ruthless Aggression era. Just like the whole cruiserweight division from like 2002 to about 2006, 2007 was on fire, because you had guys like Chavo, you had guys like Paul London, you had guys like Brian Kendrick that were out there killing it every night.
Absolutely, man.
Nunzio, the FBI, Full-Blooded Italians.
Taking me back.
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting nostalgic over here. It's funny you speak of Ruthless Aggression now, because any figure collectors that listen to this know that there's the big kick with like the whole Walmart figure hunt thing, where all these Ruthless Aggression elites, where they're re-releasing Jakks Pacific figures as, the Mattel Elite line, and people are going crazy trying to get these things. So I mean, it clearly was a very prominent period that I think, like, in hindsight, like the Star Wars prequels, we're just now starting to love it.
Yeah. I went to my first WWE show at 9 years old. I was living in Maryland at the time, because I lived in Maryland for a good chunk of my childhood. It was on a Sunday night. It was in July of 2004.
Okay.
It was in a town called Frederick, and it was the Raw brand. This was back during the brand split. They had Raw crew, SmackDown crew. This was not televised. This was like live. Yeah. It was an outdoor show. So I remember Stacy Keibler coming out for a segment with Jonathan Coachman, and I don't know if you remember the Diva Search, but it was it was to promote that. So I think that Jonathan Coachman must have said something to her, and she did not take it very well. So she kind of kicked it where the sun don't shine. And leave it at that. And poor coach. Poor coach. So they have an intermission. And so me being a 9-year-old kid, just adventurous, takes off from his parents. They've got a merch stand, and they've got a tent where the wrestlers are coming out, because, they don't have like the big setup Titantrons and all that stuff that you see on TV. So me being this naive 9-year-old, doesn't know any better. I was just curious, like, what is in that tent? So I go in, just take a peek. In front of me, I see Stacy Keibler. To my right is Victoria, and to my left is Kane.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. And that was after he unmasked, right?
Yeah. So I'm just like, oh my gosh. So Stacy says hi, and Victoria's like, hello. And Kane's like, I'm like, hi, Kane. My dad just yanks my shirt.
I can see that as a cartoon. The little Kane just comes in and yanks you off stage or yanks you out of the tent.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, before the days of autograph signings at airports.
Yeah. Oh boy. We won't get into that.
But... No.
So I mean, you got in around the same time that I did, and again, you mentioned too that you drifted away for a little bit, and I feel like that tends to happen to everybody at some point. But you either make your way back or you move on to different things, and your friends drift their way back. But I mean, there's something so dynamic about wrestling, and I don't really know how to describe it, but it's so cool that it brings all these different people from all these different walks of life and different age groups together, and there's something that they can all conversate over. It's so cool, but it doesn't get its just due.
No, it doesn't.
Something that you're doing now with professional wrestlers really jumps out to me, because we hear about guys like John Cena that do Make-A-Wish, or even the things that Hulk Hogan has done with Make-A-Wish. But the premise of your podcast is talking to wrestlers and, diving into different, charities and things that they help out with. So I'm curious because that's a concept I'd never heard of before, talking to you. What kind of prompted you to go to that route with a podcast like that?
So me coming from a radio background, I'm a radio personality and
Absolutely.
and something that's something I want to do and am still wanting to do and going to do. But I'd always wanted to, I think deep down, I always wanted to get involved with the business in some form or
Yeah,
fashion.
absolutely.
And so I knew at some point I wanted to do like whether it was a wrestling radio show or wrestling podcast,
Mm-hmm.
of some kind. Um, I initially was just like thinking about like different ideas and just like because like the podcast market is so like stacked to the brim,
Oh,
like
yeah.
especially with wrestling.
For sure.
And so I mean everything's like interview shows or you know kind of like nostalgic shows like what we're talking about with Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah.
But I took a look at this. There really up until my show, there really isn't really a show talking about uh helping other people or
Right.
doing acts of kindness or charity or inspirational stories. But like, I mean, there've been like special episodes of other podcasts.
Yeah.
And I actually did take a look. There was one mini series that was done. I think it was with Dana Warrior a few years back. It was kind of, had a little bit of a similar premise, but like I kind of wanted to, everybody has different ideas
Yeah, absolutely.
and same ideas. So I kind of wanted to do a show where sure we'll talk with wrestlers about their careers, but I also wanted to dive into stuff that they've done outside of the ring, stuff that they've done to help other people, help out in their community. And so I just was like, you know what? This is actually a pretty cool idea and I'd like to go forward with it. And so I started it back almost a year ago. And September will be 1 year since I started wrestling with Hart. And
Right.
I've had people like Al Snow on there, Stevie Ray. I actually just recorded an episode with Devon Dudley.
Oh, wow. That is
So
amazing.
yeah. And Angelina Love from
Nice. Very good.
Impact. Yeah. So, my most highest show episode that's out right now is with Baby Doll.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, she was a very prominent managerial figure back in the 80s era, the NWA, Jim Crockett. Most people
Yeah.
would probably know her from managing Tully Blanchard and the controversial slap she took on TV where Dusty Rhodes came to her aid. But I mean, man, that is so awesome. So I gotta know because it seems like everybody has their process of reaching out to guests and everything. But what do you do? Like, do you just shoot your shot? What's your process for getting people on your podcast?
Well, it's kind of interesting because with technology and with how social media operates now and the internet, um, it was I mean, I use Facebook, I've used Instagram. I try to email people too. It's just
Absolutely.
it's a variety of different things. It's whoever can come, whoever can get to me as best as they can to reach out.
Yeah.
It can be hard sometimes because people may have other gigs or they're just too busy at the moment, and I just say we'll circle back, we'll talk about it at
Right.
another time. So it's just a matter of who's available, who's not. But I'm not like never say never. If somebody can't
Yes.
make a show, right now, that doesn't mean in about 6 or 12 months from now, the answer may be different. I tend to like if
Absolutely.
somebody says no right now, I'll try to circle back with them in about 6 months or so
Yeah.
just to say, hey, I'd love to have you on the show. I think that, this show, the thing with my show is I try to get people to not only talk about their careers as wrestlers. We'll talk about that and all that, but we'll try to talk mostly about what they've done outside of the ring and any organizations, charity organizations that they've worked with. Like I mentioned, Baby Doll, she worked with this company called Crime Stoppers, and animal rescue to help rescue animals, basically, make sure they have a home, because I think, we all want to have our animals, in safe places where they can, that they can count on somebody being around for them.
For sure.
So I just feel that, that was very heartwarming. And, it's just stories like that that really make you go, wow, if you make a difference in your community, it can just go a long way.
Absolutely.
And the thing is you don't really think of pro wrestlers as the people that, do that kind of thing. So right. I'm like, and I feel like this is kind of interesting right now. And as of right now, I've got about, as an up and coming podcast, I've got about 60 subscribers on YouTube.
Very nice.
Bump that. We want to bump that up, but we're on all the platforms.
Absolutely. And we'll have links to everything in the show notes too. And I mean, just to give you a little bit of a shout out too, I know you're constantly sharing on social media. I think the most recent share that I saw was you were up to 400 or right on the cusp of 400 follows on Facebook. And I mean, it's still growing. So
it's like 330 likes right now. So yeah, if you could share the page,
for sure,
I'd appreciate it. It's just, it's a process, I try to, there was one piece of advice that somebody gave on like a podcasting group that I belong to on Facebook that said, how do you target your fans that you want to have on your podcast, so that you want to get to your page? And they said, like, friend as many people as you can.
Yep.
That are wrestling fans. And so through my wrestling groups, I've just tried to friend as many people as I can. Absolutely. And just add them. And, little by little, I'm trying to hit up the convention circuit. I went to one in June in Springfield, Massachusetts, and I'm planning on going to WrestleCade in November.
Very nice.
That'll be a big one. Yeah, it will be. And I'm kind of hoping to go to WrestleCon next year in Philadelphia during WrestleMania weekend. I think that'd be kind of cool.
That would be huge. I mean, there's going to be a lot of influx of indie talent. I mean, big name talents from all the other companies that are going to be up there in town. I mean, it's like a who's who basically that's going to be around all these shows.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to, little by little, I'm just trying to, invest some stuff in the podcast and make it worth something. I'd like to even make it a radio show if possible. Who knows?
I mean, it's a medium that doesn't really get taken advantage of anymore. Because I mean, a lot of this stuff did start out with radio shows, but it seems like everything's kind of drifted over to YouTube or podcasting as we're doing here. But I mean, radio wise too, I mean, there's Sirius XM with Busted Open and these different shows, but I mean, there's so many different opportunities out there, and people will listen if you give a good quality content. And what you're doing here, similar to what I do here on this show, is you're humanizing these people, because like you said, people don't picture professional wrestlers as people that give back to their communities. But, you hear about Edge and Beth Phoenix doing food drives for kids in school and Headlock for Hunger, like all these different things that humanize these people and show that they're not just uneducated meatheads. Like, they actually are caring, compassionate people. And I think it's not to brag by any stretch, but it's a way to get promotion out for what they're doing and get more people involved. Because I mean, it's a great cause, and it's something that you can go to bed at night knowing that you did something good to help somebody or help, animals in need. There's so many different ways to spin it, but I mean, it's a good thing that humanizes these people that people may not get the chance to see them that way.
No, I mean, you'll hear about, companies like WWE, we just had SummerSlam in Detroit. They went to, usually around like their big pay-per-views, they go to like the Boys and Girls Club or Special Olympics, and they team up with those organizations to help out, with the kids over the weekend. And you'll see like promo packages for it. So it really does shine a light on these people really doing something for their community. And that was another reason why I wanted to start this podcast. So the sky's the limit.
Man, that's the truth of it. And I actually heard a statistic. I think it was from Chris Van Vliet on, I think today was his 500th episode. And he mentioned that, I think like 80% of podcasts, that may be a higher number, higher percentage, don't make it past the first 7 episodes. So, I mean, congratulations to you for coming up on 1 year as we're recording this. I just had 2.
Thank you.
So, I mean, it's so cool to hear that we're like, because I'll be honest, it gets overwhelming. It feels like you're not doing enough. You're not taking advantage of this social media, this, that, and the other. But I mean, just to hear that, people are coming, people are willing to be guests, and people are tuning in, that makes it all worth it. But in hearing that too, and saying that, what do you do to keep it from feeling like a job? Because I'm very guilty of getting burned out or diving too headfirst into it and burning myself out, basically.
Well,
So what are your
sure.
tips?
Well, that's the thing. It's like me starting out. I feel like my goal was to make this kind of a side hustle for myself.
Yeah.
And bring in some money. But because I've loved pro wrestling all these years, finally being able to get the chance to talk to somebody like an Al Snow or a Stevie Ray or a Baby Doll or a Devon Dudley, like who would have thought, like, it's not every day like you get to talk to these people. You're not around them except for at a meet and greet.
Right.
Getting the chance to talk to them, and that's something, I love talking to the indie talent, as well, because they've had, they've been through so much in their careers, and they're just, incredible people, and, hearing what they're going through and how they've made a difference in their life, just like the well-known names do. It's just unbelievable,
Absolutely.
So I just really would like to get an influx of both, mainstream national talents that people know, and some regional, and some people that, are just coming up. I think I'd like to make this kind of a platform for anybody, not just like one particular company or two particular companies, anybody to come on the show. Because I think, because like sometimes there'll be podcasts, like they'll talk with certain talents, but I'd like to welcome anybody that wants to come on the show. I've had actually a lot of people like yourself, Chris, reach out to me that want to come on the show. Like now I'm starting to hear from like a bunch of people. So I'm just like, the more episodes I do, the more content I can put out.
For sure.
I try to, my thing is I'd like to put out weekly episodes. I know some podcasters like to do the bi-weekly. That's great. But I'd like to have a 1-day release day for the episode, and maybe another day where I can work on just getting some clips from that particular show onto YouTube and share it on social media. That way I feel like I'm not killing myself too much, with it.
That's what I respect right there, is that you have a plan and you have structure to it, as opposed to just going in and throwing it all against the wall and seeing what sticks as you go. I mean, it's still a learning process, but I love that you have a foundation and a structure for what you're trying to do. It's a smart way to go about it.
Yeah. And I mean, as like my day-to-day schedule changes, I'll find time to do it and upload the shows as need be, as necessary. So it's just going to be, it's going to fluctuate a little bit, but I'm willing to make it work, and I'm going to make it work.
Absolutely. And I love that attitude too, because I mean, if you want it to happen by hook or crook, it's going to happen. If you put it out in the universe is going to respond. So
right.
I love that attitude.
Thank you. And the same thing with your show.
Thank you. And I mean, the thing too about podcasting, and I know, like you said, a lot more people are reaching out to you now. People, I think, don't realize, or maybe they're hesitant at first, or they just don't understand, but it's a free platform for promotion as well. That's something that I'm offering. You're offering. Pretty much any podcast you go on, it's not only a way to bring eyes to you and your brand, but like what we're talking about now with different charities and things that you're involved in, it's a great way to bring eyes to that and get people involved with it, because who knows, your local charity may need extra people to help out with, packing food at Second Harvest or something like that. They hear about this wrestler doing it. They're a fan of his. Oh, they're going to go check it out and, maybe meet him at the same time. And now he's got a lifelong fan, and the charity's got people that are helping the community. There's so many good things that can come from the platform right here.
Right. One wrestler that I look up to and admire for doing what he's doing, and someone I'd like to even get a chance to interview on the podcast sometime, is Titus O'Neil.
Yes. I was about to sing his praises for everything in Detroit, because he did the same thing at SummerSlam last year in Nashville. But I mean, he's the perfect ambassador for what they're doing with the Special Olympics and the Boys and Girls Clubs. That guy, you can tell he genuinely loves what he's doing.
Oh, for sure. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you got a chance to watch Raw a couple of weeks ago, but he was on commentary during one of the matches. Dude, he should have been like a lead announcer. He still should be a lead announcer for one of the shows, because he killed it.
Yeah, I mean, he's so talented. I don't know why they're not doing more with him, even if it's not in the ring. But I mean, even backstage, like, that guy has personality and charisma for days. Like, you gravitate to him, big individual. But I mean, yeah, he killed it on commentary. He kills it in the social ambassador roles. He's not bad in the ring. Like, they've got a well-rounded, it's another Miz, basically. Not to say everybody's a Miz, but you know, you've got guys that can do it all, but you're just not taking advantage of it. But that guy, man, if they're smart, he's got a job for life, and he'll fit in and exceed at whatever they do for him.
He definitely just one of the many guys that I feel like goes above and beyond the Call of Duty to help other people, and it really shows.
Absolutely. And that's the thing too. And it's something that I harken back to with acting, wrestling, or whatever. If you enjoy what you're doing and you believe in what you're doing, people around you will pick up on that. If you're just going through the motions, people will pick up on that too. So I mean,
exactly,
it makes a world of difference. But you know, in saying all this too, with you know, looking at different charities that the wrestlers are involved in and things they get involved with, are there any charities that you would like to bring eyes to, or anything you would like to make mention of?
Well, I've done some work with 50 Forward over Thanksgiving with delivering meals here in Nashville with the I believe it was with the YMCA. They would have like a program over the holidays, so me and my family would help deliver meals to the homeless.
Fantastic.
That was always fun. I've done a little bit of stuff with Second Harvest Food Bank years ago. I would say those two. I definitely think the delivering meals was pretty fun to do, and getting a chance to, you know, put a smile on someone's face.
Absolutely.
Definitely, I enjoyed going over there for the holidays, for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. Just heading over there was great.
And I mean, it's something too that, especially with how stressful today's day and age is, everything went with COVID. We got past that, but I mean, things are still stressful. The economy, politics, whatever you want to talk about, people can feel lost, and, you know, like, people don't care sometimes. So, I mean, I can only imagine the positivity that it brought, you know, seeing you and your family and all these other people bringing meals and just showing that people care, especially around the holidays, man. That's a great thing. And I can't say that enough.
No, definitely. I just enjoyed going there and doing what I was, doing being a good citizen.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just giving to your fellow man more than anything, and that's what it's all about. Because I mean, if you put good out into the world, we don't do it for this reason, but if you put good out, good comes back to you. So it's just karma more than anything. And depending on what your beliefs are, we won't get into all that, but I mean, it's just putting good out into the world more than anything, because we need more of that than the negativity and everything that sells on TV.
Yeah, I mean, we see, you know, with our news, it's all, you know, I feel like it's made us sort of divided. And so I think one thing that we can try to take away from what's happened is try to be good within ourselves and try to be the change that we wish to see. So just be kind to people, you know, respect goes a long way. So just treat others the way you'd want to be treated.
Man, I couldn't say it any better myself. But so as we're coming up on time here, because Zoom likes to be difficult about all that stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned, you know, being a fan of wrestling and wanting to get into the business, but, you know, you and I talked beforehand about a little segment I do called Call It in the Ring here.
Sure.
You want to flip the roles a little bit, take the reins, and throw some questions my way that I have no idea what's even coming?
Okay, so I had two in mind. If I come up with a few more, I'll try to think of stuff off the top of my head. But if you had to pick a personalized ring entrance that any song in the world for you to use at any point in time, which one would it be and why?
Man, see, this is the thing. I'm constantly changing music as I find new layers to develop with the character. Funny you mentioned Baby Doll. I've actually contemplated going back and using something that Tully Blanchard and Ric Flair used on their house shows back in the day. Easy Lover by Phil Bailey and Phil Collins.
The good one.
Yep. But man, I think more than anything, the music that fit me the most would probably be Metallica's cover of Turn the Page, even though I don't use it anymore and a bunch of other people started using it and I stole it from somebody. You know how that goes. But I would probably say that is the one that felt the most me. And if I could find a show that had a Titantron and all that, you know, put the video to it. I don't know about pyro because the concussions still make me jump. There's no way I could hold it together on that, but get the video package, have that playing through the sound system, and just give me the stage and let it go. But
Sure.
I think it would have to be Metallica's cover to Turn the Page.
Nice. All right. So if you could wrestle for any company back in the day, what would it be and why?
In all honesty, I think it would have to be, I would say NWA in the heyday of Jim Crockett Promotions, and a close second would be the AWA. Just because there were smaller guys. I'm about 5'6", 5'7" on a good day. I pretty much would have been probably never considered or just lost in the shuffle at WWF at the time, but I would have loved to have been on TV, you know, on the heyday of the Horsemen, Ricky and Robert, all these guys, the Midnight Express, or even being up there, you know, like when the Rockers were first starting in AWA, and having a chance to maybe step in the ring with Nick Bockwinkel, who's another favorite of mine. I would have loved to do that because I feel like my style is more similar to what they did back then, where it's not so much more of the meat and potatoes, but it's more of believability more than anything. I'd rather kick or punch than do a fancy flip. Now, not that I can do a fancy flip, but, you know, I can at least make what I do look believable and make it look ground and pound. So I would have loved the chance to done that, or have somebody say, hey, kid, you look like an Anderson. Let's bring you into that, you know, because I've had people tell me I look like a young Arn Anderson. So cool. You know, like, let's do something like that.
Compliment. You know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. So outside of being a wrestler, what role would you have in the business which role would you want to have in the business if you weren't a wrestler, and why?
So if they came to me today and said, we want you to be a manager, an on-screen manager, where do I sign? Because that's my ultimate goal, because I'm not going to be taking bumps forever. But if I could be, you know, similar to a Paul Heyman or a Bobby Heenan, and even help behind the scenes with producing or booking or whatever, that would be it, man. Because I know there are a lot of guys that aren't comfortable talking. I have no problem doing that. So if I could do that, beautiful. Take a bump here and there, but save the bump card, save the body, and just run my mouth until somebody gets their hands on me and punches me. I could live with that.
Yeah. Ties into my next question.
Yes.
If you could pick anybody to be your manager, who would it be and why?
Oh, man. Okay. So, you know, at this point, I don't want to break up the pair of Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns by any stretch. I would take Bobby Heenan, because I know Shawn Michaels, I don't think that would work as a manager, but Bobby Heenan was the all-around ultimate utility player and the GOAT. I would love to have him, because he managed some of my favorites. He was a commentator. He did everything. I would love to have just had him by my side and to have been my mouthpiece.
Awesome. All right, one more. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
One more? Okay. Dream match. Who would you pick to have anybody in the world? If you could pick any wrestler to have a match with, who would it be and why?
Man, okay, there are so many that were supposed to have happened at one point with guys that are still alive, but you know, they're not wrestling anymore for whatever reason. But the one that I would drop everything for, hands down, is Shawn Michaels, because that guy, him and Kurt Angle, they're the reason that I finally made the decision to want to be a wrestler. If I could just even get in and have a practice match at the Performance Center with him, done. I can retire happy. That's it, man. Like, but since that one won't happen, I would say Kid Cash, because I trained with him. I looked up to him. You know, my size, pretty thick, pretty built, loud mouth. I never got the chance, despite being on all these shows with him. I would love to go and see how I could match up against him, because I mean, he's a notorious badass guy, but I would love to try my shot with him.
ECW guy too, Tennessee boy too.
Yep. He runs one of the most intense training courses whenever he does them. I was sore for a week after that. So, man, I would love to see where we would match up now.
Yeah, definitely.
And I haven't seen him in a few years either, so it'd be nice to see him and catch up too. So
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Man, I love those questions, and I love this segment because people, the questions are always different. And I love being surprised by what you're going to ask, because the rule is I don't know this stuff ahead of time. And I love being put on the spot like that. So I love being in the moment. And I love the enthusiasm and the questions that you brought to it, man. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you again for having me.
Oh, dude, of course. And I can't say it enough, but seriously, thank you for being so flexible with everything, because peek behind the curtain, I had a last minute rehearsal thrown on that's going to start in about 20 minutes after we wrap up here. and we had to push our interview up a little bit, and we had baseball tryouts last week, and just anything that comes with being a dad and wearing too many hats that comes up, but in all seriousness, man, thank you for not only giving me the opportunity to come and chat on your podcast and get to know you as a friend, but to have you on here and talk about what you're doing, man. It's been an honor.
Oh, it's an honor again to be on your podcast. And anybody that wants to check out Wrestling with Heart, we've got a Facebook page, we've got an Instagram, we're now on Threads, we're on X, formerly known as Twitter, and we got YouTube.
Yep.
Wrestling with Heart on YouTube, Wrestling with Heart with Stanley Karr. Just find us. We've got a lot of content coming out, lots of interviews, and we're just hoping to grow. So like, share, and subscribe with your friends and family. We hope to have as many followers as possible. I'd love to grow the show.
Absolutely. And guys, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have it all in the show notes for you. So make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, look down below, click those links. If you're listening to it on whatever podcasting platform, check those show notes, hit it, subscribe, rate, review, leave a 5-star review if you feel so inclined, and do the same for this show if you haven't already. Just help us both out, get the word of mouth out, and enjoy some good quality audio content. He's coming up on 1 year. We just hit 2, and trust me, we're nowhere near done yet. So there's a lot more coming, and man, I can't wait to circle back with you at a later date and see how things are going now and see how much more it's grown since then.
Absolutely. Forgot to mention we're on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're most likely on there. So beautiful. Just find us at Wrestling with Heart with Stanley Karr.
Yep. See, that's what we do here, guys. We make it easy for you. So anywhere you find this show, you can find Wrestling with Heart. So you know what to do. As soon as this episode's over, go find it, go subscribe, and just enjoy the content that he's got. Then leave that review. But man, oh man, this has been fun catching up with you. I can't believe that we've already gotten this far in, and man, it's flown by. It's like catching up with an old friend, and I feel like I've known you for years at this point. So it's amazing.
I know. We'd love to meet you in person.
Absolutely. And we'll make that happen. But guys, as we're winding it up here, I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, like I said at the start of the show, check the link tree for everything we got for Flynn Hendrix. And I Know You Hear Me. If you got a local wrestling promotion in your town, tell them you want me there. Tell them you want the TV title defended. I'll bring it there. We'll put it up against the best. And then we'll meet you in person, maybe get you some cool merch, take some pictures, and do all that fun stuff. And if you see Stanley at a convention, guys, go up and say hi to him. Tell him you support his stuff, and find a charity you can get invested in. Give some good back in the world and have some fun. And then make sure you come back next week for another awesome episode, and you know that we'll be doing it all over again. So until next time, for myself, for Stanley, we'll grab a hold and we'll catch you next time. And I know you hear me. The I Know You Hear Me podcast is a presentation of Flynn Hendrix Enterprises. We thank you for tuning in this week, and we hope you'll check out our sponsors and advertisers. Nice.